this will be a bit of a different experience for everyone out there. So I know you're used to me going, hi, my name's Chris, and hearing, hi, my name's Christy, and we start talking about Bake Off. But this is a bit different. Welcome to the Food Nerd Vanity Project, as I'm referring to it. Now, I'm one half of this, but I need a real food nerd on the other side, and I could really only think of one person. Fi,
let me get my fake glasses on, and we'll food nerd it away.
Got your fake glasses. So this is going to be a bit different, just to explain to people out there. It's a bit different from what you're used to hearing. You're used to hearing a bit more jokes. I mean, we're still going to have the humor and stuff like that, but this is just for food nerds. Realistically, this is for food nerds. And we're going to nerd out a hell of a lot, in particular around Chef's Table on Netflix, which if you haven't watched it, stop the podcast right now. Go watch Chef's Table. Come back to us. We'll wait. Who am I kidding? We're not waiting. But yeah, no, this is more about the passion for food than necessarily about, well, again, we're not going to have the same sort of references because, you know, this is something that we're genuinely passionate about, cooking food, different styles, different flavors, different techniques. And, you know, again, I couldn't think of anyone better to do it with.
And I'm throwing it out there, which is to say the San Pellegrino Restaurant Guide and also Chef's Table on Netflix have single-handedly put me into probably mortgaging my house, remortgaging it, and possibly selling body parts. But it has changed my entire goal and priorities in life, which is just to eat my way through these restaurant lists.
Just don't sell body parts that are essential for eating.
Oh, look, I can live with one kidney. I can live with part of the liver. Then again, you do have matching wine.
I was about to say matching wine. You can't
But no, so if you see me, people, out on the street in a box with a cardboard sign that says, you know, need money for Michelin star restaurants, I'm not fucking joking.
We'll say we'll eat for food.
Correct, and any change is much appreciated. So except for New Zealand coins.
No, because that's not worth anything. It's about Zimbabwean dollar, New Zealand anything.
Yeah.
Same sort of exchange rate. So it's not going to be your stock standard recap show. This is not let's blow by blow go through these episodes. This is just going to be us waxing lyrical about food, waxing about the episode, about restaurants we've been to. I've just finally, because if I didn't do it, Fi would beat me to death with it. Just before we started recording, ordered the Food Lab, which I've had a browse of that book, and I haven't even got it in my hands, and I'm already in love with it. So I really am genuinely this excited about this book. Fi has described this to me in glowing terms. Just quickly, just for the people out there, what is the Food Lab? Go.
If anyone has not read the Food Lab, heard of it, or if you're a cookbook like fanatic and addict like I am, you need to get your hands on it. It is just revolutionary. So it is the absolute perfect fitting reading material for a podcast like this, it is basically a food nerd book written by a food nerd. Kenji Lopez is an amazing chef, and everything that he puts in this book, he goes through rhyme and reasons why things are cooked the way they cook. So why do you cook a steak? How long do you cook it for to get, you know, your blue, your medium rare, et cetera, et cetera. And they also have him on the Serious Eats website. Bookmark it now. If you're not Control D'ing on your Apple like computer, you're dead to me. But seriously, bookmark it. Follow their Instagram. Every single recipe that Kenji puts his name to, any recipe that I've made that he's put his name to, should I say, has worked out an absolute treat. Best roast potatoes in duck fat, obviously, Chris, as we're talking.
Has to be.
And they take next to no time. So, you know, gone are the days of doing like roast for bloody like an hour and a half and still not getting any crisp factor. Like, it's ridiculous. I have done his ramen stock and ramen noodle recipe. And it's just an amazing resource, actually. So the Food Lab book, get it, ask friends, family for it on like Christmas like wish list. If not, just pretend like next week's your birthday and ask for a present.
Yeah, that's a smart idea, by the way. Just in general, in life, just pretend that your birthday and ask for a present.
It is just a ridiculous book, and I love it. I'm sleeping on it to hopefully get all the knowledge osmosis styles.
How's that coming along?
Yeah, the other thing is on Serious Eats, there's just an amazing collection of chefs and pastry chefs and all that sort of stuff. And a shout out to one of my favorite people on that blog is Stella Parks. She's an amazing pastry chef. And if anyone happened to see on my Instagram last year around Halloween, I saw her Halloween gingerbread house, and I've never made gingerbread houses well. She has the best construction gingerbread recipe, and I made her Halloween gingerbread house, and it is ridiculous. I did something really stupid, though. I didn't take her advice and tried to stagger it over a couple of days. Never, ever bake and try and decorate and assemble a gingerbread house in one day. It took me 15 hours, by the way, that Halloween gingerbread house. But
I remember the attempt that Tegan was talking about when Tegan had her go, and the documentation on Twitter.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was genius, and I was highly impressed with her construction efforts. But yeah, I would space it out. To be fair, if it was me, I wouldn't attempt it.
But her recipe is amazing. It is actually really good gingerbread. And now I've done the Halloween version. I've done the same house for Christmas. I'm sure I'll be able to do like a Miami Vice style house with like flamingos and stuff just for funsies. But
I hope so.
It is that good a recipe that I'll just do it for fun.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing for me out of all of that is, and you know, a bit of an interesting peek back behind the curtain, is that for someone who reviews Bake Off, as you know I do, I'm a savoury person. I really am. I do have a sweet tooth, and I love cakes, and I love baked goods, and I love all those sorts of things. But if you give me the option of sweet or savoury, I'll take savoury every day of the week.
You're a Maggie Beer man, then.
I really am. I'm very much. I love the savoury challenges, except for burgers, but we won't go there. And I prefer savoury over sweet. That's just, and I can't explain it. I love good cakes. I love good baked everythings, and we'll love like a bit of this or a bit of that. But I can't sit there and like binge on it. I can't sit there and have like more than one or two. I have to go back to something savoury. I prefer the savoury flavours.
I think dessert and sweet stuff is just that it looks so pretty, and you're always mesmerised by
looks incredible,
and the look of it, and you know, taste as well. But funnily enough, I love chocolate, like as in eating it and stuff. I like making desserts, but I love eating savoury. So I'm sort of with you. I'm a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I believe that one of the greatest inventions in the history of mankind is cured meats of all descriptions.
Nobel Peace Prize, please, to the person who invented cured meat and fucking cheese.
Well, for me, whoever created chorizo, you are my hero. I love you deeply because I will put chorizo in everything.
Cornflakes, Milo.
Yeah, chorizo and pecorino cheese.
Oh,
I love my pecorino. I love my chorizo. I love the interesting part about the first episode of Chef's Table for Series 3 is that all the ingredients she doesn't cook with are the ones I love. Like garlic. Well, that doesn't seem human.
I was really surprised by that. Like,
it's because it's supposed to be an aphrodisiac a little bit. It's things that stimulate that part of the, according to the monks and their beliefs, is that those things stimulate those urges, and obviously as a monk you don't really want that.
But that's why I was so much more impressed with like Jean-Kwan's like cooking was, you know, these are fundamentals. Everyone always cooks with garlic, right? You know, you chuck garlic.
That's the first thing I throw in the pan every time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm baking a cake, garlic. It's only half a joke, by the way, too.
Savoury cake shop, why not?
Yeah.
But that's why I was so much more impressed by her episode and her cooking. I was just blown away thinking, you know, you would think that the fundamentals of vegetarian cooking would be to try and get flavours elsewhere through things like that. But yeah, I'm going to be on the verge of gushing. I thought the episode was so pretty and just inspiring, and I've never made it, and I'm now so hell-bent on wanting to make my own kimchi. I've just got to build in-ground sort of cellar of some
in-ground pots. I have no problem with that. See, I'm not a big fan of kimchi.
I love kimchi. Wash your mouth out. I fucking love kimchi.
But watching her make kimchi made me really want it.
Yeah, I also want to make my own soy sauce. Can I just throw it out there?
Oh, well, again, as Jean-Kwan said, you know, every time I think of soy sauce, I get excited.
Aphrodisiac.
Apparently, it's the aphrodisiac in place of the garlic and the onion. But I thought it was beautifully shot for a start. Just cinematography.
Yeah.
And it had for me one of my favorite shots that I think I've seen in any chef's table or any television show almost for that matter. And it was the perfect just image of her walking through a soul.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I can't explain it. It's just she's this perfect sort of dichotomy breakaway of there are all these like trendy young South Koreans and there's all this food stall taking place.
And she looks like she's out of Monkey Magic or Jackie Chan.
She does look like, I was actually about to say, it's Monkey Magic.
Yeah.
And not even remotely in a derogatory way. It was beautiful. Just watching her just so happy walking through.
She was literally serene. And then I was thinking, okay, where is she going? Where is she going? And she goes, oh, no, I tend to go to the city every so often and I teach at a culinary school. I'm like, oh, of course you fucking do. Of course you do.
And the little cheer she gives at the end of her demonstration at the culinary school.
That was gorgeous.
I loved it. It was brilliant. And again, not in a oh, that's cute kind of way. It's the passion that she has for this.
Yeah.
Now, I love cooking at the culinary school because I believe really strongly in teaching, the younger generation have these food habits that are really poor, and I really want to show them there's another way to do it. And it's not born out of, I'm going to lecture to you from on high about your choices. This is someone who just genuinely goes, there's a better way.
Yeah.
This is a lost art. This is what you need to do. And again, the food critic, as he says, it's all about time. Her food is not about, it's not about, layering it with 15 million different flavors. It's time.
Well, the other thing I took away from it was, when she went to her veggie garden and I was just like, yeah, that's next level organic. When you've got really good ingredients, the whole thing is that you shouldn't have to do all the layering with, complex things to mask it. Like the veggies should just speak for themselves, or the ingredients should just speak for themselves, like good fish.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like one of my favorite things ever was when I was in Tokyo last year, and Nick, my other half, was sick as a dog, dying in the Airbnb, and it was the best trip ever because I got to do everything I wanted to do without him tagging along. And it's easy.
He was dying.
It was fabulous because it was actually easy to get into places to eat when you're by yourself. And I got up at 2 a.m. I set the timer to get me up, and he goes, why are you going so early? And I was going to the Skiji fish market, and I said, I'm going to the tuna auctions. And he goes, but doesn't it start at 5? And I said, yeah, but they only let 120 people in each day, 2 groups of 60. Yep. And I didn't want to be in the second group because there's no point in getting up early only to be shafted into the second group and wait another hour and a bit anyway.
Yeah.
So luckily I did, because by the time I got into a cab, had the nicest cab driver, knew exactly where to take me, because if not, I would have ended up missing it and going all the way around the market. Dropped me at the thing, and lo and behold, there was already about 40 people ahead of me. So I managed to sneak into the first group. But went to this auction. It was amazing. Then it was 6 a.m. by the time I finished up there, walking around the markets going, yeah, why not? It's 6 a.m. I might as well have some sushi, like fresh.
Yes, you do, yes.
Best breakfast ever. And I've never tasted fish straight off like the market floor like that before. And then I went back later with Nick around about 9 or 10 when he could muster up all the barocca he could find. And he just went up to a fishmonger's stall and he had slices of tuna that he'd just cut up. And it worked out to be about 800 yen, which is like, the exchange rate was like $8.
Yeah.
And it is just unheard of. You would not get anything like that anywhere else, let alone for $8. And yeah, see, it just goes to show really fresh ingredients, really good ingredients. You don't have to do anything with it. Like,
no.
I loved her garden. I want to do that. I aspire to be a gardener. My latest project is to grow my own herbs and veggies. I've got a couple of little vertical gardens going, and I had it going, funnily enough, when Bake Off was being shown last year.
Yeah.
The garden was going gangbusters. I did the full treatment. I grew everything from seeds. So I had seedlings going in seedling trays, had them sitting on a warm place, moving them out in the sun in the morning, spritzing them every second day. Then once they got going, I transported them into the actual vertical garden bed. the garden, I have never been able to grow anything, Chris. I have killed several cactuses.
How do you kill cacti? How do you kill cacti?
Well, I don't know. So what has happened is when I moved up to Brisbane, cleaning out the house in Adelaide, Mum comes around to help me and she's like, oh, what's in this glass thing? And I'm like, I think it was a cactus. And she's like, nah, that's not right. Something terrible has happened here. And I don't think she ever looked at me the same way again.
That's terrifying.
I was so proud of this.
I'm the son of a horticulturist. I'm terrified right now.
It may have been a plastic cactus that I killed too. I'm not even sure. But
that's even better, yeah.
I've never been able to grow anything, and I thought, no, I'm getting to a point where I do love my food so much that I want to know, A, where it comes from, first off. But second of all, I'm really not into food wastage. Like, I don't like going and buying bunches of herbs and only using a couple of sprigs and then letting it sit in the fridge and not being able to use it for anything else.
Yeah.
So that's what drove me to get this little garden going. And then the bloody Brisbane heat came through, which is what I don't understand. If you're confused as to how I killed a cactus, explain to me how it is that I'm living in Brisbane, which is essentially a fucking greenhouse, and my plants just all died.
They're scared of you. They heard the rumours of what happened to cactus in Adelaide.
No, but I was singing to them, maybe off key, mamuma, mamuma.
Mamuma.
No, but it was going gangbusters. I have to reel off the list. I was pretty proud of myself, and I'm starting it again. But I had basil going because I heard basil's the easiest to grow. I had mint, and mint, I even did the right thing. I put it in a separate pot because
mint's far easier to grow because at times you can't stop mint.
Yeah, it's an absolute weed. And what's even great is that I got a mint cutting from a friend and just shoved it into the ground. I didn't even put it in some glass to wait.
Growing up, we had mint in the back garden, not by design. We don't actually know where the initial plant came from, but it was all through the garden. And it was everywhere. Mint was everywhere, and strawberries.
Strawberries was the hardest. Strawberries are
we had strawberries just appear out of absolutely nowhere. Well, how, we don't know. We had tomatoes grow at one point in our garden when I was growing up, and that was because the guys who were building the fence were having tomato sandwiches.
Well,
and they dropped their seeds, and the next thing you know, tomato plant sprouts.
Yeah, well, we had watermelon because family friends came around and was spitting watermelon seeds into the garden. Next thing, Dad's like, "What's choking my roses?" Oh, it's watermelon. Yeah, righto.
And the most impressive thing we ever had in our back garden in terms of produce was we had the lemon tree, we had the orange tree, and we had the mandarin tree. The mandarin tree was terrible. It dire death never did anything. And Dad, as a last ditch thing, and again, the horticulturist, so very proud of his abilities with plants. And he just moved it on a whim and put it the other side of the yard. The tree now gets so many mandarins on it when season comes, it just about breaks the tree.
Nice.
The birds got to them the other year, and it looked like a massacre had taken place. There were just carcasses of mandarins everywhere. We will frequently bring I'll get a garbage bag delivered to the front door. Here you go. You guys have some mandarins. You and Christy have some mandarins. And we're like, oh, so the tree's empty now? And Mum just looks at me and goes, no, it's not empty. It's still very much full. And you go over, and sure enough, this tree is doubled over with mandarins, and it just never stops. He hasn't done a single thing. He hasn't done a single thing to it. Meanwhile, you trying to earnestly grow things.
Oh, well, I had everything going. This is why I was really disappointed, and I was actually really quite sad. So I had mint, I had basil, I had lemongrass, I had garlic chives, snow peas, broad beans, chili, coriander, parsley. I shoved a garlic bulb in my kitchen down just for fun, and it took.
Nice.
And what else? A cucumber. And I think I went all out because I was thinking, I know my track record. I'm not very good. I'll try and plant as much as I can of everything, and then probabilities mean that 95% of it will die and 5% will take, and that'll be fine. I can then,
change my planning accordingly.
Yeah, but it all took, and there was these beautiful plants going, particularly the broad beans. They're actually a really pretty plant. They were just going gangbusters. Oh, and cos lettuce. And the cos lettuce would have been the first thing I was able to harvest, except my one downfall. I thought birds were coming along and pulling them up, and then I looked closely and I'm like, birds don't really cleanly cut through things. They'll pull things up, but they don't cut through things.
No.
And then I came out one morning, and anyone who knows me knows that I shit myself with wormy-like insects. I can do cockroaches and spiders and stuff, but if there's slugs, caterpillars, millipedes, centipedes, worms, I lose my shit. And then lo and behold, there were these big, fat, fucking black caterpillars munching away on my cos lettuce.
Yep.
And I'm standing there with a little squirt bottle of water, putting it onto not the spray nozzle, but the actual stream nozzle, and standing really far away trying to spray them off. And because I didn't want to touch them, but I didn't want to fling them. But I'm like, you're eating my shit. Fuck off. Like, and so I'm really scared of them. I know that they can't hurt me. I just don't like the look of them. So I'm going to try doing this veggie patch again.
You need the Jean Quan philosophy, though, which was put it everywhere.
No, that's why I'm really impressed, because she's like, oh, yeah, the insects will eat what they like. I'm like, probably not. This time around, given the hard work that I will be putting into my garden patch, I will be standing there with a super soaker now.
But I like when they were explaining about the pattern of the garden, and they're like, you go to all these big gardens and they're so well organised. And
it was organised. What were they talking about? It was a mess.
But in comparison to when you see a lot of these other, like, again, Ben Chouari from season 1, from Attica, his garden, if you've seen that garden behind Attica,
pretty immaculate.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
But I thought there was something...
Chef's Table, by the way, does a decent job of showing you that garden. But a better job of that is Fuck That's Delicious, which, speaking of food shows, Fuck That's Delicious by Action Bronson. Sounds like you're going, what the hell is he recommending this for? Trust me on this. Yes, it's a fat stone rapper, but he's a foodie. And he's a really serious foodie. And he goes through this garden and is so impressed by it. That's an organised garden. Her garden is organised by most people's standards, but by big chef sort of gardens, everything is everywhere. Her philosophy is a bit like your philosophy on plants. Whatever is going to survive will survive, and whatever is there for me will be there for me, because nature will take what it wants.
Oh, can we just talk about one thing that she made that I'm just fangirling over like you wouldn't believe?
Please tell me you're about to talk about the shiitake mushrooms.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. All right, yeah. Let's talk about the shiitake mushrooms.
Please, let's talk about the shiitake. Those shiitake mushrooms.
Holy shit.
Seriously, I'm just sitting here going, the shop's closed, sure. But damn it, if they're going to have shiitake, I can go get some.
Because what did she do? It was just soy sauce.
Yeah, so she loves soy. So it's
just boiled in soy sauce, wasn't it?
Boiled in soy. That's again, simple treatment of food.
Then again, I don't know. I don't believe that. So I've asked my mum, who cooks like a little Italian nonna, by the way. I've asked her. She knows that I'm a recipe girl. I've said, can you give me your Vietnamese chicken curry recipe? Because she makes some really lovely curry that I love. And she chucks a whole shit ton of potatoes in there because she knows I love potatoes. But then she's been messaging me this recipe, and she says, oh, it's just lemongrass, some curry powder, and some chicken. And I'm pretty sure it's more than 3 fucking ingredients. My dad's in the background yelling at her, telling her to just write it down for me. And she's just like, no, it's just a little bit of this. And I'm talking like an Italian person with my hands in the air going, what's a little bit, Mum? Just help me out. Like,
it's a pin, and it's a dab, and it's a dash.
So I don't believe that it should only be shiitake mushrooms in soy sauce. I'm going to have to watch it again now just to see.
I don't care what it is. I want them. And again, I get serious food envy most of the time watching Chef's Table.
Yeah.
And with the vegetarian one, and we talked about this previously before we started recording, my problem with vegetarian cuisine, and I very briefly in my past dated a vegan, said a love of cured meats that I have was never to be. But my big problem that I have with vegetarian cooking, and I do love vegetarian food, but it's the tofu. And I can't, we've had this discussion, and I wait for you to enlighten me in the ways of tofu. I have never successfully been able to do tofu. I can't do it. It doesn't work.
I just think it's because you've not had really good tofu.
Everyone says the same thing. Whenever I talk to anyone about tofu and my issues with tofu, I get told, you just haven't had good tofu. And no one as yet has provided me with good tofu. And so I'm looking forward to finding the day that this takes place. But until that day, it remains my biggest problem with most vegetarian recipes is that everything calls for, and now just add tofu in place of where you would have put meat, or use tofu and I mean, even I, the tofu hater that I am, knows that you shouldn't be using tofu just as a meat substitute or a meat replacement, because that's the worst way to use tofu.
But I think that's why you love the shiitake mushroom dish so much, is because shiitake mushrooms is quite meaty, like as in the texture.
Savory. It's the savoury texture.
Yeah, and the flavour as well. So I can understand why her father loved that dish, because it was probably the closest thing that would come to meat without, using tofu.
Mm. And again, my love of that dish, again, I think it probably is the savoury. But I like just her treatment of everything. And again, she made me want kimchi, and I don't really like it, but she made me want kimchi.
Oh God, I would sit there all day, every day in that monastery and just guard that kimchi.
And I like the fact too. What I loved about this episode is, what do you open up series 3 of Chef's Table with, but someone whose first sentence is, "I'm not a chef."
Yeah.
And then when you find out that you can't go and eat at her restaurant because there isn't one, and if you stay at the monastery for a while, you get fed, but that's about it. Or you
grateful we're going to the monastery, Chris.
Or you have to be lucky enough to be invited to one of those. And I loved the story, partly because I got to see, one of my favorite chefs in the world. I got to see Eric. And Eric Repair. I love Anthony Bourdain, and we'll come back to Anthony Bourdain later, but I saw Eric and I got very excited when I saw Eric. And when they're talking about, Eric invited Jeff Gordonier, the writer, to the banquet, and when he said, "No, I'm busy," then there was a personal phone call of, "No, you don't understand. You're coming to this. That's not a maybe you want to. She doesn't do this. You're coming to the restaurant." It's
ridiculous. But no, I have to somehow find my way to South Korea, to the monastery, because I want to see the lotus tea.
Oh, the lotus! Yeah, that was the other thing that I was really intrigued by. That lotus tea, simple.
It just reminded me of like cucumber water, but
a little bit
next level.
Yeah, but with a far more intense everything.
But just her opening and fanning out the lotus like flower, for God's sakes.
It was just and it's the whole thing was beautiful.
Yeah.
And everything she did had a beauty to it. And it was, again, she talked about the idea of food as communication and food as, and I wholeheartedly agree.
No, but I'm sorry, for someone who claims not to be a chef, she's in fact a monk and all that, plating skills, next level. Everything was just gorgeous to look at.
Look at that last bit of plating she did on the monastery meal, where they put all the bowls out, and then she's very carefully sort of repositioning the bowls into like symmetrical order, so it looks really pretty. It's like you've got plating skills. This is not this is not just a case of I'm a monk and I'm just going to throw everything down.
Yeah, exactly. But no, actually, I know how we're going to end up eating there. We need to time it so that we can go and celebrate Buddha's birthday, where the temple opens up.
Yes.
And feeds everyone.
Perfect.
Done.
Okay. Done. Sorted. We're set.
It's also Buddha's birthday. We'll get him a copy of the Food Lab.
I think Buddha would love that.
Although, duck fat potatoes and stuff. It does remind me of a hilarious story which you'll appreciate. So my parents are Buddhist, and my dad used to do quite a lot of volunteer sort of work at the local Vietnamese temple down in Adelaide.
Yep.
So Dad's a sparky, so he'd go in and he'd, fit in new PowerPoints or put in new light fittings and all that sort of stuff out of the goodness of his own heart. But my dad is a meat lover, so he will eat and observe certain days throughout the year and eat vegetarian on those days, but fuck, he's aggro. Like, so if you see him at the end of that week where he's eating vegetarian, he's going to be shit. And what's worse is when he works and is doing stuff, he, needs to smoke, obviously, but also needs to eat well. And this was like, it was a hot day, I reckon. He's up in the roof space, like putting in a new light fitting or something like that. And he's just like, oh, bloody hell, I'm really hungry. And of course, vegetarian meal in the temple is not going to do it. And he's like, no, I really want a Vietnamese like roast pork like roll.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, nah, I'm getting really like hungry, blah, blah, blah. I'm only little at the time, so it's not like I could drive out to get him like one. Mum's not anywhere to be found. And so I think one of the nuns at the temple went out and bought him one. And I don't actually know how that fits in, because I know that it's okay because you're not eating it, but purchasing. But yeah, so she was a bit of a mule for my dad just to carry this roast pork roll
running them.
Back into the temple grounds so he could
The
get
roll runner.
Continue working.
Did him out. Anyway, the roll runner. Now I've got this. Oh wow! Now I've got this. Yeah, I can just
all respect to my old man.
Papillon sort of up against the bars, sort of scene at the end where she's for roll smuggling.
I tip my hat to my old man because I don't think there's anyone else in the history of the temple, or let alone any
who's got nuns to smuggle a meat roll
that would actually eat meat on temple grounds, or send someone from the temple to go buy meat.
Yeah, that getting someone from the temple to go and buy meat is next level brilliant. It's all kinds of genius, really.
Yeah, I don't think my mum's let him forget that too. She's just like, yeah, remember that time you ate?
I was going to say with disappointment or with pride?
I don't know. I think she sort of says
it with pride.
No, I reckon she says it just to make sure she pulls him into line when she plays the old karma card.
He starts mucking around a little bit. She looks at him and goes, "You ate meat on temple grounds.
Yeah.
You made a nun do your dirty work for you, and you ate meat on.
You solicited meat.
You know what I'm going to do in response? I'm not going to give Fee the right recipe. 3 ingredients.
Damn you!
It's a pinch of salt. It's a little bit of seasoning. That's all it is." Meanwhile, you walk into the kitchen one day when she's making it, and there's like a million different spices in front of you. You're like, "What's that one? I've never even seen that one. It's glowing." Go away. Go away. You'll never know the secret. It's just a bit of salt. That's all it is.
Hilarious, actually. Like, you sound like you come from obviously a fairly foodie family. You know, obviously traditions and recipes and stuff. And I've said this before on Bake Off. I'm self-taught because my mum's not one of those mums that loves to cook. She cooks out of necessity. Well, she certainly did, at least. Obviously, you know, getting married and stuff. Like, Dad's from the generation where he certainly doesn't know how to cook, and so Mum's done the cooking. But you know, lo and behold, like most things my mum does, she's really actually quite good at it. Like, I love her cooking, and I miss it now that I'm up here in Brisbane. And so that's why I actually don't do a lot of Asian cooking, because I mean, you look at the stuff that Jean Quan was doing.
Yeah.
It's quite complicated. You know, it's a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of sourness or saltiness. It's a whole plethora of flavors in one. So it's actually not that. It's probably quick to actually cook because, you know, stir fries and stuff, but prep time and marinating and flavor profiles is actually quite complicated. So
it's probably a good time as well to be able to get into sort of, you know, cooking backgrounds and why exactly we're sort of as food focused as we are. Because my foodie background is actually more self-taught. I mean, my father bakes really well, actually.
Yeah, right.
He does great scones. And he makes a good bread and butter pudding. He loves bread and butter pudding.
I love bread and butter pudding.
He makes a great bread and butter pudding. It's one of the only reasons why he would go to Sizzler is for dessert. They often have bread and butter pudding. And Mum makes a lot more of the traditional stuff. A lot of very sort of traditional Anglo-ish sort of foods.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm self-taught in terms of my cooking. I spent a large proportion of my early high school at home with migraines, and would get hungry and would decide that I'm going to eat, and there was nothing in the house except for some stuff in the freezer. So I just started going, what if I put this with this? What if I do this with this? What happens here? And then I started expanding it out more and more. And then I started doing things like getting snippets out of like the woman's weekly cookbooks and stuff like that.
How good are those cookbooks, by the way? They're so good.
And taking those, and then I just started messing with those a little bit and changing them. And then it became, as my palate increased and I started discovering all sorts of different things, how can I work this in? How can I work that in? And then Asian infusion started coming in, and then, you know, a lot of curries, and I love a lot of spicy, really spicy food.
I love spicy food.
Which is one of the reasons why Christy and I work so well, is that we both love ridiculously hot food. And it's great because I'll start cooking a curry, or I'll start cooking something with a bit of spice in it. And Christy will sort of look at me and go, "You're putting a bit more chili in there, aren't you?" I'm like, yeah, I am now.
This doesn't bode well for me in my partnership. Nick is as vanilla as they come, and his mouth heats up when he sees the colour red. And I'm just like, but that's a strawberry. Like, it's red, but it's not spicy.
It's not spicy. But the interesting part with the background for food was we've actually started introducing Mum, for example, to yum cha.
Oh, nice.
Because we adore, absolutely, Christy and I adore yum cha. We'll happily go anywhere with. Again, there's a very early on, and I think I've told you this story before, but I haven't talked about it on podcast. Was when I first started seeing Christy, and I took her to yum cha. And it's one of the good ones because that's where all the Asian people are. So you're like, good, this is where we want to be. And I'm ordering all this sort of stuff, and there's trays of noodles and stuff going past. And Christy's looked, I want those noodles. And I've looked, and I've clocked it in my head. And in my head, I've made a split-second decision. Do I tell her what that is?
That's right. I remember the story.
Or do I let this roll? And I decided to let it play because I was intrigued to see what her reaction was going to be. And she's got it. And I'm like, and she said, no, I want those. I went, okay, have the noodles. So I'm there eating. It's probably, given it's me at yum cha, I was probably eating something with prawns in it because I just get everything that has prawns. And she picks up this noodle, really proud, and she's like got the chopsticks and picks it up and puts it in her mouth. And this look just came over her, and she looked at me and she went, "That's tripe, isn't it?" And I just looked at her and went, "Yep." I let her eat tripe. And again, it's not that she didn't know food. She grew up around this food. So this is not a case of, me being learned and her not being it. It was just a mistaken identity thing. But my God, was it a funny mistaken identity thing. And it was funny for me.
For it.
It was funny for me because, I wasn't eating tripe. And
But see, I'm going to stand up for tripe here. It must be an Asian thing. I love tripe at yum cha.
My father adores tripe.
I love it. I actually think the texture is really lovely.
I often suspect that my father initially married my mother because my grandfather, her father was a butcher, and he used to do tripe and lamb's fry. And my father adores tripe and lamb's fry, and nobody, including my mother, who, daughter of a butcher, eats, the raw meat and stuff like that while she's cooking mince. We'll just eat some mince while she's cooking. Even she goes, I'm drawing the line at lamb's fry and tripe and those sorts of things. So when my grandfather was alive, he used to make it for himself, and he'd send over like Chinese food containers full of it for Dad, and then Dad would go to cook it for lunch, and we'd all leave the house because it's quite pungent, and like lamb's fry is really pungent. And so the smell would waft through the house, at which point I'd go up the road and do something for about 3 hours so the smell could leave. But it's really weird. Yeah, she's the daughter of the butcher, but I swear that he just sort of saw this ability for tripe and lamb's fry and went, we're in on that. But my cooking and because I won't let Chrissy into the kitchen here. It's not a case of, she can't cook. On the contrary, she cooks really well. It's just that I'm really protective of the kitchen.
Oh, so you're a Nazi.
I'm a kitchen Nazi. No soup for you. No, there's plenty of soup for you. I'm making it.
P.S. I want that soup recipe that we talked about earlier.
There are two of them, remember. My French onion was good, but my duck fat vegetable soup is really good.
That's the one.
But I made a French onion the other night. Same thing. There's a massive batch. I sat there while Chrissy was watching my kitchen rules, and I can't stand it. So it was on in the background, and it was quite interesting. There's my kitchen rules, and they're yelling about, I don't know what they're cooking, but everyone was yelling at each other. And there's me nerding out over my crevassier and just sort of standing there looking at it going, I get to use you tonight. This is wonderful. And I'm just sauteing onions for like 2 hours.
Oh, gracious.
And it's like, again, what are you doing? I'm sauteing onions. What are you doing? I'm still sauteing the onions. What are you doing now? It's about an hour later. Still sauteing onions. Aren't you bored? God, no. I'm loving every moment of this. I'm just watching these onions going, yeah, that's the color I want. Like, aren't you going to turn the heat up and no, I'm not going to make this happen faster. Why not? It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. I am that person. I mentioned to you before, I do a crispy skin duck, which involved me basting it for hour upon hour upon hour. And I will happily stand at the oven and make that sacrifice.
Yeah. So meanwhile, dinner will be served in 7 days.
Yeah, exactly. If you want duck from me, you got to give me about 4 days notice and get out of my way. I'm not coming.
You sound like you're similar to me in the way you cook. I like learning about techniques and stuff. which is why I like to bake the things I bake. But cooking's the same. So last year I ended up finally getting my hands on the sous vide machine, so the Innova culinary one. And I love the fact that it's got an app and everything like that, because it just hit like a really good like nerd vibe.
Yeah.
And my first thing I did was I did a couple of steaks, and I did the best baby carrots. Again, that baby carrot recipe is from the Serious Eats sous vide guide. If you are into sous vide cooking, anyone out there, holy shit, it is like a 101 of sous vide cooking. And these were the best baby carrots ever. So I basically put them in a bag with a few herbs, a knob of butter, vacuum sealed that sucker, 85 degrees I think it was, for an hour. Then you tip the entire thing out and saute it all in a pan to finish it off. And it was the best thing, like even better than the actual steak that I did in the sous vide, funnily enough.
I've resisted the sous vide, I mean, for a while now. I've resisted it. I think I might need to break that, but I've resisted it for a while.
No, you're going to have to get one, because now that I've got the sous vide, my next kitchen toy that I'm getting is hopefully either a smoking gun, or I want a searing sort of like.
Well, see, I've actually made, and this is where we are now, getting finally into real food nerd territory. I've actually started investigating a smoker.
Yeah.
I really want to set up an area in the backyard for proper smoking of food, because I really like a lot of that sort of smoky flavoured meats and stuff like that, and really want to do my own over a long period of time. The wood smoker in particular is I've already started making some inquiries about those. We do among the group of friends, the Meatapalooza, which is basically everything at the venue must be meat. Sometimes, I tried something last year. I tried a couple of things last year for Meatapalooza. The one that didn't work, but my God, I'm going to crack it one day, is I tried to do a lasagna using prosciutto. Not as the mince, I'm talking about as the noodles.
Oh, no.
Now, I'm going to crack the secret of how to do this. I don't care how many rounds of really heavily salted meat I have to eat, because that was the problem, of course. It's prosciutto, as we all know, really salty. So doing it with the noodles, and also prosciutto, kind of shrinks. So that's another problem with doing prosciutto for the noodles. But the rest of it came out really well. The bechamel, I did everything else as per normal. I just tried to use prosciutto as the noodles. Kind of didn't work. But rather than sit there and go, well, that didn't work, or that was crap, I just went, okay, let's work on a new idea.
You know what? I reckon as soon as you crack that prosciutto noodle lasagna, I expect to see that on the next season of Chef's Table.
If I can crack that, it will definitely. I may even just default back to the greatest meat substance in the history of mankind. I refer, of course, to chorizo. And I may do chorizo noodles instead, because it's not quite as salty, and the smoky flavour will work really well with the mince.
Oh, but I'd like to see you take a mandolin to a chorizo sausage now.
That I just call that a weekday. That's a weekday, and then cover it all in. Let's see here. What's our cheese? I mean, pecorino is my obvious, because pecorino is my go-to.
I see manchego is my go-to.
And which is why, linking it back to Chef's Table as well, as part of the Food Nerd Out, my favourite episode of possibly television, forget Chef Table, is episode 1, if season 1, which is Massimo Bottura. And again, it's his passion for the cheese of the region in particular, the Reggiano, and the saving an industry.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And
that was amazing.
And the dish, which is the cheese 5 ways.
Yeah.
Like a foam cheese with a, then a hard, and then it's just amazing.
But see, I have a lot of respect for that, but at the end of the day, I just love cheese in general. So I would be sitting there I'd be helping him save the wheels of cheese by just sitting there and being a fee and sitting there, George Costanza style, munging on a wheel of cheese.
Yeah, it's actually been one of the fun parts about watching Bake Off was a good chance for Christy and I to break out about 4 different types of cheese and just sit in front of the television. It was our excuse: break out the cheese, sit in front of the television, watch Bake Off, eat cheese and cured meats, cheese and cured meats.
So season 1, episode 1 is your favourite, but
I adore it.
Season 1, episode 4 is mine. Nikki Nakayama. I am heading off to LA over Easter, and I've been trying desperately to get a table at Enaka and have been sweetly denied.
Well, once she hears this on the podcast, because she'll listen.
I'm pretty sure the website, every time I go in there, I put myself on a wait list, and I got this really funny email saying, there's an opening potentially. So I jumped in, had a look, and I looked at the time that they said, someone else is either like cancelled or something, and then tried to click it, and I'm pretty sure there was just like laughing as the response.
I like the idea that you click on it and all you hear is,
No, it was. I imagined it was more like the Muttley off of Wacky Races laugh, like the breathless laughter. Because I tried several times. And, yeah. Because I tried several times, and someone's probably sitting on the other end going, "Look at this fucking joker!" Like, less than a month out. No way am I getting a table.
Let's give them a suggestion that maybe they can, they can get a booking, but then let's take it away at the end.
Yeah, that's just seriously, I can't deal with that. I'm just going to go hug a toaster in a bathtub. Like, that's just awful. But I'm trying desperately to get there, and I thought, we're going to be in LA. What an amazing place to eat. But I've been inspired. I'm going to try and hit up Nancy Silverton's restaurants.
Oh, yes. That's going to be the next episode of this. We will be talking about Nancy Silverton.
Well, I've got a calendar reminder because they only accept bookings 1 month out, and we're arriving in LA, I think, on the 12th or 13th of April. So as soon as that ticks over here, I'm on there, and I'm just booking a table at both the mozzarella bar and the pizza bar.
Yeah, I was looking the other night when you were mentioning to me about the Nancy Silverton and trying to get the booking. I made the fatal mistake of then going down the menu.
Yeah.
And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm going through the menu of Nancy Silverton's, the pizza place in particular. And I'm just there going, it's 1 a.m. I'm really hungry. And I'm not like a snack. I just need all of this. What do you want? I want all of this.
And then you go to the fridge and eat 64 slices of American cheese.
Yes, exactly. Because that's always the way we resolve all problems.
But no, I'm desperate to get to Enaka because obviously the food looks amazing from like the chef's table thing, but I'm actually really like fangirling over Nikki. I just think she's just ridiculous. Like, I think she's amazing. Who else did I fangirl over? Dominic Crenn, season 2, episode 3. Holy shit, I love her. She actually came as one of the chefs to the Margaret River Food Festival last year. And I tried to do a gushy post to enter into a competition to get there, and I never got selected. So damn you. But it means now I have to go to San Francisco.
It means you need to get a bit creepier now.
Yeah, exactly. But I was, I've got the book, I was ready to like carry it with me to Margaret River to get her to sign it. But I think her stuff on Chef's Table was just beautiful.
I'm looking forward to, because we're talking before and you've watched a few episodes ahead of me at the moment in season 3. But the only thing that you've really tantalised me with now is episode 4 of this series, which all you keep on saying is you're going to lose your shit.
Yeah, I'm a massive ramen person. Like, ramen is like, Vietnamese beef noodle soup.
I love ramen.
No one makes ramen. No one makes pho at home because, this stock takes fucking forever. I've made ramen stock once, and it was a hard boil for like 14 hours, and fuck, that was hard going. Because my little range hood couldn't even like take the steam, and it was just dripping off the thing. So I had to get tea towels, do all sorts of shit. But I love ramen, and I will still do it again. But I actually want to do, in the sous vide, funnily enough, it's a 36-hour char siu. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to sous vide some stock as well.
Well, see, my two essential things in the kitchen at the moment are, the KitchenAid, which Christy always says was the benefit of me moving in. I came with my own KitchenAid, and it's purple because everything I have is purple. And the pressure cooker.
I'm too scared to use a pressure cooker.
I love my pressure cooker. We don't like businesses going into business. Let's just say that right now off the top. However, when Dick Smith went under, I got a Canbrook pressure cooker for about a third of the price.
Oh,
I wasn't
I
buying
have to
anything.
learn
I was literally doing what you do in those closing down sales where you go in and go, oh, let's just see what they've got. And I walked in the door and I just looked on the shelf and it was right in front of me. And I just looked and went, it will be mine. Oh, yes, it will be mine.
No, I am too scared. I'll have to visit you guys so you can show me how to use it. I'm really scared knowing my luck that it'll probably explode off. And
I did I did the first thing I think I made in the pressure. The first thing I made in the pressure cooker was I did the pork chops. I did Hong Kong style pork chops.
ooh.
Which is basically, if you go through what that sauce actually is, if you add cream to it, it's almost stroganoff.
Oh wow.
So it's basically like a stroganoff sauce, but without the cream. And I did the pork chops and put them in the pressure cooker, and I think I did them. It was 20 minutes or something like that, but on the highest pressure. And
She's breaking up.
the first time when you open that valve is terrifying. But once you realize you're not going to die, and then you can really enjoy the food out of it, you open it up and just the smell hits you, and then the pork chops were perfect and they dropped apart and the sauce was beautiful. And
I'll make you a deal then, like Chris. I'll get a pressure cooker and you get a sous vide machine, then we're good.
Done.
And by our powers combined, I reckon we will probably have enough gear to open up our own place.
Yeah, well, I've said I've got the KitchenAid set, and that's ready to go.
No, once you get a sous vide, I will give you my because this is a recipe from Serious Eats, but I've pointed so many people to it. The smoked barbecue ribs. So it was my first big sous vide cook, and I didn't time it very well. So it was 16 hours. I thought, okay, if I'm going to do a really long cook, I'm going to do it some justice. I went and got a rack of St. Louis style ribs, cut them up. Or before I cut them up, I gave it a full spa treatment. I gave this meat, this beautiful spice rub, massaged it in, plated a bit of
Enya,
light some incense, cut it all up, vacuum sealed the portions, and then chucked it onto the sous vide machine.
I just love the lovely description of what you did to it. Followed by cut it all up, treated it with the utmost respect and love and tenderness. Cut it up,
and just whacked it in the pot.
Yeah.
And then what had happened was because I didn't time it very well, I ended up having the alarm go off by my head on the phone. Because if you get one now, you'll get the Wi-Fi Bluetooth version too. By the way, it has an app.
Yay!
So then the alarm went off, and it was 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I'm groggily going down the stairs, barely with my eyes open, turning this off, getting these bags of these ribs out. There was about half a dozen of them, and dunking them into some ice water to cool them down, and then whack that into the fridge to cool down before I finished it off around lunchtime on the barbecue. But this is 4 a.m. and I'm like, what is wrong with my life? Why
Nothing is the answer. It's perfect.
But amazing. It was almost like we were talking about before, the No Reservations episode where Anthony Bourdain goes to Tokyo and, they've basically got raw chicken where he's like, you wouldn't eat that anywhere else because you'd die from salmonella. It was like this, the sous vide cooked pork ribs, almost medium rare. It was still pinkish in the middle, but it'd been cooking for so long that it's fine, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was just ridiculous, tender, juicy sort of meat. So if you get a sous vide machine, you have to do that as your first
Oh, definitely. That's 100% now definitely the first thing I'm doing. Yeah. And that also links back into, in terms of food influences and where we sort of both come from. And again, you mentioned No Reservations, and Anthony Bourdain is one of those for me. Interestingly enough, Christy had never read Kitchen Confidential. And so while I was out the other day, I bought her a copy. I'm like, here, have Kitchen Confidential, read this. This is where Bourdain comes from. But what I love about someone like a Bourdain, and it matches him with Chef's Table, and it's interesting because, again, Eric being on Chef's Table and his links with Bourdain are very well documented. One of my favourite episodes of anything Bourdain was when Anthony went back to his old restaurant and worked the pass, and Eric volunteered to do it with him. So they're actually working as order cooks, as line cooks in Bourdain's old restaurant. and trying to keep up with all the young chefs and the new head chef. And it's great fun watching these two just sort of struggle to get back into the tempo of it. And what I find interesting though with Bourdain is Eric talked in the episode, the first episode, in Jean-Quan's episode, about cooking without ego.
Mm.
And Bourdain's got an ego, but he also doesn't cook with it. And what I mean by not cooking with it in terms of when he goes around the world and does no reservations, which, let's face it, it's more a travel cooking show than a cooking show.
Mm.
But what I love about that is that you're not getting Anthony Bourdain, the egotistical maniac, going around the world telling everyone, I know better than you. He is the most gracious guest wherever he goes. He is open to so many new flavors and ideas and promotes these flavors and ideas, I think, better than almost anyone else on food television.
He's a foodie through and through.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Loves food, loves to know anything and everything about it, where it comes from, the people behind it. And yeah.
I mentioned to you before in the last series of No Reservations they did when he came to Australia, and he hung out with Matt Moran.
Mm.
And that episode is it's a celebration of Sydney is what it is. And it's a thing of beauty to watch. You know, Matt takes him to the farm, and it opens with him and his father doing lamb chops on a barbecue in the shed at the farm. So that's Anthony Bourdain's first meal, is in the shed. They're just grilling them on the barbecue, just as you do. And it's just a beautiful sort of celebration of Sydney food. And he does this all around the world wherever he goes. Cambodia is one of the most touching episodes of television period I've ever seen.
I love that Cambodia episode.
Beautiful. And then you get that, and then you get the Tokyo one, which is its own little form of quirky with the geishas and getting everything wrong. And then you spin it out to something like, possibly one of the greatest episodes I've seen of that, which is Greece, where he's just getting wasted. And is so drunk that they bring up the booze on day 3, and you hear an audible groan and an oh no. And then they go out and shoot a goat and eat the goat, because you do. Anthony Bourdain, and there's usually some form of animal slaughter at some point during the episode. But that again, that's raw passion for food. And it's one of the things that I struggle with in a lot of the popular food TV is there's a passion, and I don't know if this is going to sound right, and a lot of people might listen to this and go, that's utter bullshit. There's a passion for cooking in a lot of food TV, but there's not a passion for food.
No, I can see what you're saying.
It's all about the cooking of it, and not about the ingredients and the food and what you're doing and the process. It's all about
people love the finale of it all, right? And the theatre of it all, which is obviously, the drama in the kitchen or plating up. Everyone loves the plate up moment, right?
I hate plating up.
The presentation moment. But I'm a little bit like you. I love to know, like, who's behind it, how they got there, how they got into it, which is why I think Chef's Table through and through, because you find out where these guys have all come from. And one of my favourite episodes is Alex Atala from Dom in, like, Brazil, season 2. The guy's just got the most ridiculous background. He basically was in a rock punk band, and cooking came about as a result of him having to get a job to, like, get a UK visa. I love that sort of shit. Like, because I love, like, not just like cooking and stuff, but I love to know how, like, everyone ends up where they end up, what path did you take to sort of get there and stuff. And that's why I won't ruin it for you or anyone else. But yeah, episode 4 of season 3.
I'm looking forward to it.
He's my new favourite chef, just because I love his story.
Well, see, to go back to my favourite chef, Massimo, what I really liked, and again, you talk about the story of, how you get there. And, he was working in different restaurants in the region, then he goes to America, and he's working at, like, a basic sort of cafe sort of thing, marries the waitress behind the bar, goes back to decide to run a restaurant again. And what I liked was a lot of the times that, the newer cuisine when there's smaller portions, and again, I'm not a fan of smaller portions, It's one of the reasons why I liked Aria, was because it's fancy. It's very fancy, sort of very foodie food, but it's good portions. It's like you can eat a meal and not go, "Oh, I don't feel like I've eaten anything." You've eaten a meal. But he does the tortellini.
Oh yeah,
and there's 6 of them. And I was talking to my father about this, and he's very much no, you fill your plate up with food. That's what you do. You know, I fill that. Most meals that I have, if you ask anybody, I overportion by a mile. But especially pastas, I load pastas because I adore them. And I was explaining this episode to my father about, you know, these tortellini and trying to explain. He's just like, no, don't get it. Just stupid. And he watched the first part of it. He still didn't really get it or understand it. It didn't make any sense to him. But what I like in that episode is that Massimo explains why he picked 6 tortellini. And it's one of the best things I've ever heard a chef explain. Because what he says, for those who, I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen it. But if you haven't, he turns around and he says, traditional Italian food is you load your plate up with as much pasta as humanly possible, and then you stuff your face. And you just sit there and you wolf it all down, and you don't enjoy the experience. So you never enjoy what you're eating, you're just eating. What I'm aiming to do is there's only 6 of these. So you're going to savor every mouthful because there's only 6 of them, and they'll be gone soon. So you need to savor what you're getting because there's not that much. And I listened to that explanation and went, that's one of the only times I would accept a smaller portion. Because for me, that's logic.
If Massimo Botero is like serving it, you mean?
If Massimo Botero is serving it, yeah. But Massimo just goes, yeah, like people in Italy just stuff their face with pasta. I want to make you enjoy the damn thing. So you get 6. Take your time, enjoy it.
One of my favourite places to eat back home is Hentley Farm. It's out in the Barossa. And it's an amazing restaurant tacked on to the cellar door nearby with this winery. They make a really lovely drop too, but the restaurant is just phenomenal. I think it sits maybe a dozen people. So you sit on these like really long sort of tables, but across from each other. And they do similar to Magnus Nielsen actually with his juniper leaves and scallops. There's like, comes out in this really heavy cast iron, like a damper pot. There's a bed of rosemary and there's 2 tiny little oysters on there. And I think they were different the both times we went, but the last time we went, it was like a passion fruit glaze on top of this oyster. So, you know, you get one each or whatever. And it was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever eaten. I loved it. And, you know, the server comes out, it's like, oh, you know, so was it all right? And I'm like, look, I've got a bit of a pickle. I'm really annoyed that I only got one. And lo and behold, they came in and brought out another one. And this is a set degustation menu, by the way. I love that I kicked up a, like, you know, pretentious little stink and I was able to savor another one. So, yeah.
Sure.
If Massimo Botero is serving 6, I would probably try and cry and come up with a sob story.
I would probably try to get someone else's. I have absolutely no qualms in saying that, but I understood his rationale for a change.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, I don't like when people do that just for the sake of doing it small and going, look what we've done. It looks fancy, and there's like one thing on the plate.
Yeah, but also a lot of like Aria's like bang on with your description, which is it's good portions, but it's also just enough of a good thing so that you can actually enjoy, you know, the set menu that's been laid out for you.
Yeah, which is again, and it's the stages. And I've mentioned the best soup I've ever had was delivered to me in a shot glass before I even started my entree, and it was Aria, and it was the roast potato soup, and that was what I then used as the basis to come up with my duck fat vegetable soup, which I make, because that flavour stuck with me through the whole meal, and it was just enough. If you had a big bowl of it, you would have been overly full.
Yeah.
Just that shot glass for that flavour of look what we can do. This is amazing here. This is what you're going to get tonight. It was perfect.
Yeah, but see, if they served that to me in a shot glass, you know, very dangerous territory because I'd probably glass someone to get another shot of it. Like,
yeah, but you know, they know what they're getting. They know exactly what they're getting with you. That's the thing. There's no secret.
To tie this all back though, to Chef's Table is the guy who created it, obviously. Like the Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite docos. And Chef's Table is sort of like that. It's about him, obviously, as much as it is about, you know, the sushi and everything like that. I tried desperately our first trip to Japan to get a table there, but we didn't. But that's not to say that, you know, we didn't have really good street food and stuff. You know, we talked about that before as well. It doesn't have to be Michelin star anything. It's just really good food, really good produce, or there's a really good story behind the restaurant or the people running it, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But it's still on my like bucket list that I will go to Jiro one day. But my only Michelin star experience so far has been Michelin star ramen in Tokyo.
Oh, yeah. I'm jealous.
December 2015 was when they got awarded their Michelin star, the only Michelin star ramen noodle store in the world. And it was a 2.5 hour wait in line because it only sits 9 people. And it was worth every fucking minute. And it's funny because you know how, you know, a lot of these restaurants get really good write-ups and stuff like that. And food is very subjective. It's what you like, what you don't like. So I don't take a lot of stock in a lot of reviews. It's just I'll read reviews to sort of see if there's anything interesting you know, in terms of what they do that's different or something like that. But food's hard, and I imagine it's really hard for chefs, you know, to sort of have their creativity and their craft appreciated by everyone because everyone knows what they like. Everyone's different. You know, you can't say one size isn't fit all. But I have to say, this Michelin star restaurant, like for ramen, it wasn't hype. It was ridiculous. I've not had ramen like that before. And they did a really different, most of it is a miso base, but this one was a soy base broth.
Okay.
And it had like porcini mushroom flavors. Like
soy makes people smile.
Oh yeah. Now I have a newfound respect for soy. Good soy, by the way. I'm going to go chuck all my shitty soy sauce out of my cupboard and I'm going to go spend it.
We'll both go out and get a whole pile of just clay pots and put them and just put everything in them from here on in. No fridge, just clay pots.
Yes. Okay, so we've got to go. And then, you know, you and I knowing what we're like, we'll probably end up getting a kiln and having to make our own clay pots. I can see where this is going.
It's so happening.
But no, so all the hype, totally worth it. And I can't recommend it enough to anyone who is intending to go to Japan. Just line up. And if you're lucky enough like me, you won't have, you know, another half to try and fit 2 people in. Just go by yourself.
Just take yourself. Yeah. They'll appreciate you later for it.
So then you recount stories like this.
Exactly. So I mean, it's the episode 1 was genuinely beautiful and
stunning.
The food was amazing, and it's with Chef's Table again. It was interesting because there's no signature dish. That doesn't mean they're not signature dishes. On the contrary, they are. They're all stunning. But as again, cooking without ego, there's no promotion of one dish over anything else. It's the experience of the dishes, which I really loved about this was, and again, it's with all of them, it's the journey of the chef as much as it is about the food they put out there.
Yeah.
But this one, like more than the others, it really wasn't focused on those meals. It was about focus on the chef, focus on the journey. And I really appreciated the way they told that story. I thought they did it beautifully. And again, a clever idea as well to start with a chef that doesn't really have a restaurant.
I found it really an emotional, it's really cliche and soppy as that sounds, but, you know, her telling her story of how she ended up at the temple, her father coming back and then appreciating, you know, her life there and like her cooking. I was just like, oh, who the fuck is cutting onions? Like, honestly.
Yeah, like, what's going on? All I can, it's wafting.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you 100%. It was.
And I have to say, I'm really impressed. Like, Chef's Table, I don't have any feelings about it getting any better or worse. I think the standard of all the seasons to date is just, it just keeps me tuned in, and the happiest email notifications I ever get is that, you know, the next season's coming out.
I was buzzing as well.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we might leave that for now. What I've figured on the way out is just very quickly, any restaurant you've eaten at that you'd encourage people, just one. I think we just pick a different one every week and mention it. Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to suggest one that's not in Sydney. I'm actually going to suggest one in your neck of the woods.
You first.
I'm going to suggest one in your neck of the woods. I'm going to suggest that if you really want to go out of your way and find something a bit interesting, Libertine in Brisbane, which is up near Suncorp Stadium. It's at the other end of Caxton Street, at the barracks, and French, Vietnamese, some of the best duck I've ever had. So I would highly recommend going to Libertine.
Excellent. I will be booking my table for this weekend.
As you should.
Actually, it's funny that you say that. So I'm going to throw out one there that was a recent experience last year, not in either of our neck of the woods, but in fact in Melbourne.
Ooh, I like Melbourne.
I'm going to do a bit of a shout out here only because I'm a big fan.
Do it.
On Instagram, there's a guy you need to follow called @ZBoy. That's ZE, just BOY.
Yep.
The guy is a home cook. I'm using air quotes even though you can't see it. It is just next level sort of stuff. He does amazing things. He made muesli and yogurt, for God's sakes, and it looked like freaking Michelin star plate up style. Really good.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But I was heading to Melbourne for work and I said, look, Melbourne foodie friends, have you got any recommendations? Because I was going to do either Dinner by Heston or try and even do Vue de Monde or even Attica. I am also geographically challenged and I was going to try and hit up Bray, but not realising that you actually have to go out and stay there.
That's a trip. Yeah, that's a trip.
Yeah. So then on his recommendation, I hit up the Town Mouse, and I have to say, through and through, an amazing place to eat. I'm just going to put it out there, Gruyere cheese-filled profiteroles.
Oh, my God.
Yep. There you go.
I'm getting on a plane. You're booking Libertine this weekend, and feel free to do that. But I'm jumping on a plane going to Melbourne.
Yeah,
I really want them right now.
So anyone who is in Melbourne and has never tried it or hasn't been there in a while, and anyone who needs to travel, definitely get yourself to the Town Mouse. It was such an amazing dining experience, and it's a really funky little place too. So there we go.
Outstanding. Well, this has been a genuine blast. So I'm looking forward to doing this again. So it's been
viewing.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic to be able to just sit here and food nerd out. I hope that you've enjoyed listening to it, everybody at home, because we've definitely enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to next week. We're going to do 2 next week.
Yeah.
Because I just want to get to Nancy's episode, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to skip. I'm going to do it in order.
Okay.
No skipping. I'm going to do it in order. But we'll talk about 2 next week. And again, it won't be recap style. It'll just be us musing over different food stories and musing over Chef's Table as a sort of running theme. But, it's more interesting than recapping.
Can I put it out there? Anyone who is listening to this, by the way, I would love to know if anyone has ever had the opportunity to actually eat at any of the restaurants that have been showcased on Chef's Table.
Oh, yes. If you've eaten there, please.
That'd be amazing to know whether you feel it's lived up to the hype or Chef's Table was a nice reflection of your experience. That'd be really interesting to know.
We'll have some. We'll probably end up having some form of social media for this, but if we don't, at Red Dwarf 40 for me,
at Finicky Baker.
At Finicky Baker for Fee, and just let us know. Because I'm always intrigued by that, because obviously you're going to put your best representation forward on something like a Chef's Table. And I'd really like to know day to day what that food's like. And again, sometimes ego and reputation can carry it. And I'd like to know, is it good? Is it not good? My example of that was I'd been, obviously all the reviews of Aria were always sensational, and you always wonder, well, is it real? And I will confirm, yep, it was everything and then some.
And for anyone who's not watched Chef's Table or don't think that it will interest them, just try an episode, because even if you're not into food, cinematography.
The cinematography is incredible, and the food, just the story of the people.
Yeah, cinematography and storytelling, I have to say, pretty fucking epic. It's really great viewing.
It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. It's well organised. It's well structured. It's just a great series, and it will ignite a passion for food.
Correct. And just make sure you have your Windex handy, because you will probably lick your TV screen. I know our dog doesn't anyway, but I may have followed it up.
You may have chased it. You've taken one side of the screen, taken the other.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, this has been spectacular. I've had so much fun doing this.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking food with me. It's fantastic fun.
Talk food any day, every day with you.
Indeed. And we will catch everybody else later.
Peace out.
Bye.